Hello guys, welcome to a video. I actually don't have any videos on my channel, but I've made videos in the past and they're terrible. So this is technically the first video that's actually out there right now. Today I'm going to be showing you my coloring process, not the whole drawing process because I didn't record the sketch. Like it would have been a whole drawing process if I recorded the sketch, but I forgot to do that. So it's just coloring. So as you can see right now, I've already had my values laid down. So I had the idea of a foreground, kind of the midground with the characters, and the background is really light. So right now I'm just filling in the base colors, which honestly takes forever. I swear filling in the base colors is like half of my coloring process. But yeah, anyways, as I'm doing this, I guess I can kind of explain to you how I'm picking my colors because that's pretty much the only thing I can say about filling in base colors. So with the base colors, I'm already filling it in the kind of like shadow color because obviously these colors aren't like the actual colors in bright lighting. So I'm already choosing darker versions of what the actual color is. Now I'm just doing this by eyeballing it, and because I have that gray mid-tone that I laid down, I kind of know the relative range of where my tones are. So with the lady in the background, her face is supposed to be like pure white. So if I'm basing that off as pure white and the current sleeve of the man that I'm doing, that's supposed to be like pure black. That's kind of the range that we're working with. And I'm using a brush to kind of fill in the hairs because I don't like using the lasso tool with hair. It makes it look too sharp and I kind of want the hair to have a slightly softer look. And oh yeah, I should mention that I am kind of doing all of the base coloring on one layer. So when I draw, I typically have line art or like sketch layer as one layer, base colors, and then shading I do on a multiply layer, and then I create a group and I merge everything together. And then from there on, I start rendering on top of that layer. So right now I'm still working on the base colors. For some parts I use the lasso, sometimes I use the brush. It really depends on which one I feel like is faster and more like gets the look that I want. Often with details and that kind of thing, I'll go in with the brush. And then with bigger areas, I'll be using the lasso tool. So there's, everything is like on the same layer. So there's not a lot of room to change the colors if I wanted to because I can't just alpha lock it and, you know, go over it and change the color. I'm honestly running out of things to say for the base colors because there's nothing to say about the base colors. Okay, I guess there's something. So the colors that I'm choosing, with the blacks, as you can see on the color wheel on the side, it's actually a form of brown. And technically with blacks and whites, you can use any like hue that you want to make the black and the white. If you just do pure like no hue at all and it's fully desaturated, it can be a bit, it doesn't create the right atmosphere if you have like environments. So I'm choosing all of my colors to be a bit warm on the warmer side. So you can see that the white, what's supposed to be white, is actually a kind of orangey, yellowish, kind of gray white. And then obviously the black is like a brown. And then with the rest of the colors as well, it's kind of all towards the warmer hue because it gives this kind of warm, like, feeling that I feel like you see in most bars because the light is often yellow light, you know? Typically, we don't really use white light indoors unless it's in a hospital, so we're kind of going with that warm light, which is why we're using warmer colors for black and white. And so the tricky thing about actually just picking the colors by eyeballing it is that you have to pick the right values. There's a really limited range of values that you have if you're just straight up picking the colors. Now, if this is difficult, typically what you can do is just completely ignore like the lighting scenario in your thing and fill in your base colors purely on what they would look like in standard lighting, as if you're taking like a passport photo, that kind of lighting. And then you can obviously go over with a multiply layer of whatever color you choose for your entire vibe to be, whether that be like a red, blue, kind of gray even, and then that will obviously make everything have a similar hue. So right now I'm choosing the color for the background. As you can see, I'm going over and over because I'm thinking like, okay, do I want it to be lighter, darker, more yellow, more red? And then now I'm adding like the most basic shading of what's supposed to be a wooden wall and the floor. Now, okay, I think the base colors is finally done and we're finally starting on the shading. Well, technically the lighting. So what I'm doing right now is on an overlay layer, I'm putting in the lighting coming from the doorway. And I'm just blocking in the basic shapes and it's kind of nothing. I'm not like shading each individual item of clothing or skin or whatever. It's just kind of the whole picture so far. So with this basic lighting, now I'm actually starting to fill in the base colors that I forgot to do because, well, I forgot about it. All right, so we're adjusting the lighting to see, because I don't want it to be too bright right now, because when I finally render the image, when I merge everything, I am going to be going over the lighting. So it's slightly dull right now, and I am blending some of it out. And now the bartender, I'm also doing the lighting on him, just trying to think of planes and form rather than like, you know, actually going into any detail. So after fiddling around with some of that, I wanted the characters to be in a little bit of darker, so I'm just going over with a bunch of layer effects and kind of creating the smoke and getting everything to be the right like value and for the piece. As you can see, the characters are a lot darker than they previously were, which makes their silhouette stand out. So if you look at the navigator at the top right corner of my Clip Studio screen, you can see the thumbnail picture basically. And you can tell that it's two people and that there's like a window or a doorway of some sort. And what I really wanted this piece to have is that illusion of like, you can see the silhouette and you can see a bright light coming from outside. That's what I wanted. And in order to achieve that, you must have contrast between your characters and your background. My background, or the outside, is pure white, contrasted with this rather dark tone of the characters. It's what makes them stand out, and we can see their silhouette pretty clearly. Or at least I hope you can. So right now I'm going in with some more detailed shading of different parts and stuff, which I'm doing all in one layer. I've merged the line art, the base colors, and now I'm just doing the shading on one layer. So I am just eyeballing all the colors, which is kind of for the coloring, I guess. I pick the color, the base color, and I kind of I shift the hue a little bit, make it a bit darker, just to add some variation. Yeah, and I forgot to color another thing. This is going to be a pattern. There's going to be something else that I forgot to color. And also I realized that the bartender's line art later on is not on the correct layer. But anyways, for now we're shading the hand, just adding in some veins to make it more smexy. And then we're also blending out some of the shading in areas that I want it to be more smooth. There honestly is no particular rule for this, and I didn't use a reference for this entire piece, which I probably should have, but this does result in probably not as good as it could have been. But anyways, I'm basically just shading each kind of individual part of the piece right now, as you can see with the glass, the hands, and also I did forget to mention that the secondary light source, the main one's the door frame, the secondary one's like the window. I kind of forgot the window existed for the most part, so I'm going to be adding the light from the window later on. But right now I'm just kind of cleaning things up with my brush and adding any details and kind of trying to render the clothes, but not super cleanly. We're just rendering stuff, but we don't need to go into too much detail, because for this piece I'm going for atmosphere and I'm not going for hyper detail. It's not supposed to be a close-up, it's just for the atmosphere. Very cinematic is what I'm going for. So with something cinematic, I feel like you don't need to focus on the details, you just need to focus on the overall vibe. As long as you have the right kind of colors down. Colors is really important if you're going for cinematic, because you have to make sure that the atmosphere and the tone and everything kind of blends in together with a cinematic kind of piece. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do. And right now I'm shading in the individual hairs. Oh my gosh, the stuttering. The individual hairs to make it seem more like hair, and just trying to get things to look as if they were actually fabric or hair or whatever it is. So there's also a little bit of cleanup during the stage, because I want to get as much clarity as I can, and the rendering is pretty much going to be done all on the stage. And anything extra like effects, lighting, the color adjustments will be done at the very end to give the overall piece a feeling of, I can't remember the word, coherence. There you go. So I'm shading the glass right now and whatever's in it. I don't even know what's in it. Some type of alcohol, but I don't know what. But yeah, so we're just shading the glass, and that's most of the basic shading. So now I'm going on to the environments and stuff, because the characters are for the most part done. So right now I'm shading in the table and adding in the shadows. And as you can see from the shadows, I'm trying to think of where the light source is, which is obviously the window and the door. And this is where I realized that the line art for the bartender is on the wrong layer. So then I remerged that and I duplicated, and boom, it's on the right layer now. So now we're also sharpening up the bartender a little bit, adding a little bit of shading for the bartender so that he's not as flat, and yeah, defining his form more. As you can see, I'm not entirely going into super much detail, but you can still tell that it's an arm and it's holding a cloth. And then I also realized that I want to put some patterning on the clothing, so we're just looking through the asset library for something that could be looking good on a pattern. And then I realized I have to download that one, so I picked another one. I was like, ooh, cats, perfect. So we're shrinking the layer. I'm going to rasterize it, change it to color, make it white, and then just kind of erase all the parts that I don't want it with the selection tool as it's clipped onto the characters. I probably should have had different layers for each character in the table, but honestly, I couldn't be bothered to do that. So now we're just helping shading the foreground a little bit because I have kind of ignored it this entire time. So I do make this darker because it's kind of the same. It's got the same value as the black of his shirt, kind of, and I need to make sure that's not true. Anyways, I'm adding some highlights so we can see what it is. I'm also shifting them a bit to help not cover up with the details of the piece. So now it's actually acting as something of a foreground, and I also Gaussian blurred it. And I'm going in over with the final highlights to actually make the light source look really bright, because that's what I wanted. I'm also adding in some final details of the shading of the earrings on the character, of the male character right here. And I think if I remember to do so, okay, never mind. We're actually gonna move on to the background now. So with the background, I'm just going really simple. I'm not doing multiple colors. This is all just with one color. And then we're gonna draw in the lanterns and stuff, but it's all really simple. It's not really shaded. I'm just blocking it in. And obviously any details are gonna be like drawn on. As you can see right now, the background is super simplistic, and the only thing that's saving the background is honestly the brush. And right now I'm going in with different multiplied layers and effects to add the shading and to get the idea of light coming in through the doorway, through that. And I think it's right now that I realize that the window is also a light source. So I start adding in the light coming in through the window and how it's going to affect the two characters. So I'm adding some lighting on the cup more, and also on the hand here, because they would probably be affected by the light coming in through the window. And now I'm pretty much done with the rendering. So now I'm going in with effects and overall tone. So I added a multiply layer on all of my everything pretty much. And I changed it to black and white to see if the values are standing out. And I also add just a bunch of overlay layers, soft lights, just to add color and warmth, because it was kind of desaturated, and yes, it's supposed to be rather desaturated, but I need some saturation for the skin tones, the faces, to draw your focus in to the faces and what I want you to focus on. And now I'm going back into the black and white. I'm always turning this on and off. It's just like an adjustment layer. And yeah, now I'm just adding the final effects and adding in dust, brushes, and just overall a bunch of overlay layers and colors. And this is where I add in that light from the window. And I'm just erasing it from the bartender because it's obviously not shining on him. And that's kind of the atmosphere that I wanted. A lot of it's done on the adjustment layers with overlay and whatever, and I'm just adding in the noise, and it's pretty much finished at this point. So yeah, hopefully that was helpful to anyone interested in the process of this piece, but yeah, that's the end of the piece, and I hope you liked the video. And I don't know if I'll make more videos in the future, but I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Maybe. Goodbye. Thank you for watching the video.